So, and I will create a separate beginning, so don't worry too much about that. So we're going to first talk about slime, our good slime here, who will be my good luck charm. So the STMR is a wonderful accessory. It has 20 defense, 30 magic, but increases evasion by 25%, which is good for newer players. I mean, the good news is if you summon on this, you're going to get a lot of slimes. The STMEOs aren't the worst things in the world. And if you want, you can increase experience gain battles from 60%, whatever. But the main draw here is a nice 25% physical evasion accessory. It's good for newer players, but all in all, otherwise, you can kind of skip. But we want to kind of go back here. This is going to be actually incredibly important for slime, and probably no one else. Does fire magic damage 70x to all enemies. If you give slime the mirror ring, that gives 4x casting and give it this materia, it will do some very, very strong damage overall. And I'll show you how. So let's just go all the way through here. It has a unique amount of back and forth. But let's just talk about the new stuff here. You will be able to cast up, and let's just kind of go back down here. They randomly cast innate abilities 3 times, but so you can cast your modifier 200x, 300x for that TMR. So it's a very interesting build for the slime. It will be hard to build it very, very efficiently, quote unquote, because you have to equip its TMR in order to get its true damage, which is actually casting this spell once. Going just a little higher here, there's not much else that's all that really interesting. Occasionally you can use a 1% very, very, very low chance of res with the slime. But if we kind of go back down here, I don't know why slimes don't like plants and aquatics, but they don't. You also get a pretty nice magic and a little bit of defense spirit here. LB damage is good, modifier cap is good, and it's a true double hand magic user for the slime, which kind of makes sense in a way, but whatever. And when single wielding any weapon, and doing it also has a nice 30x modifier, which really you're not going to use, and decrease magic 50% here, which is also helpful. So you got 250 right there. It does limit burst gauge here. You're only interested in doing the limit burst gauge once. The MP is kind of important for the slime because it will drain it overall. You can do 16 magic damage just based off physical from it, so you're going to be stacking magic on it for the most part to do damage. And going down here, 7-star, you go, 100% confused, 65x to all enemies. Why are people interested? Turns into a super limit burst unit. It's going to be it's odd the way that you have to increase slime to be able to get the super limit burst to where it is. But what you basically do here is you have this 230x to all enemies with this 30 limit burst, but you get another 400x for 4 turns for this one skill. So if you add it all up, that's 900 plus this 70x, so it's 970 x, and x is your magic damage for that spell, which is a fire-based magic spell. It's Scorch, basically. And so with that, it is a pretty overall powerful, and you can triple cast it if you have it equipped. So it is a very nice skill overall. You do need to have its TMR in order for it to be very much useful as a unit. But if you do, it does do some very interesting fire damage. Basically, you take every 4 turns in order to deal damage with it. Considering it's a 3-star, it is not exactly the worst unit in the world. I don't like it that it's a super limit burst unit, but from a super limit burst unit, as long as we don't get changes in any of the stats here, Slime is going to be a very, very interesting 3-star unit that you can actually use in some events and so forth. So let's go next to Dragonlord. And we're going to first. Let's go to the normal here. His just for people who haven't played in a while, his rod is hasn't been changed. It's a magic 159 with increased MP of 40. At the start of battle, there you can or brave shift. You can get 2 limit gauge per turn, and 10, and you get this skill which. You'll talk there, but it's not really the greatest. So let's just go through the Neo Visions here. And let's go with the normal first. Turn 1, it has 300. He has 300% magic for 2 turns. Increased limit burst damage 200%. Fire damage 30% for both there. And LB gauge for 18%. This is very important. Dragonlord is actually a pretty good fire finisher. Will work very well with Louise. Actually works incredibly well with our Louise, and so this will be kind of a very interesting unit. He is very selfish, though. Like Laura, he only gives himself buffs. From a damage standpoint, if I remember correctly, the max damage here between that and Laura Croft, he does have higher damage than Laura Croft does in Dark Visions, but much lower damage in Neo Visions. So just kind of put you into a point on the power of Dragonlord. Will be more useful in Dark Visions, but I think for most of us, we care a lot more for Cow or Clash of Wills. So take it as you see here. He can quadcast with the Neo Vision, and he can also increase magic 80% up to 960 for 1 action to caster to try and build it up as high as he can. It takes forever in order for him to do so. You can do that doing the math quickly in my head. It is 12 times you have to do that, or 3 full turns. And he has all these skills down here. And just going down for the Neo Vision, I don't think there's that much of anything there, but other than gets the upgrade to normal attack, which is fine. He gets 4 per turn for the limit burst gauge, 8 MP, 50x modifier for everything, and the stones 200%, demons 150%. But more importantly, his limit burst isn't all that great. It does magic damage that has physical capabilities, but I guess more importantly, he can inflict 6 random status elements to all enemies. Don't really care about that at all. Now let's just go back to the Brave Shift here, and more importantly for people to know, it is a available turn 1, but only a 4-turn duration for the Brave Shift. So it's not a true Brave Shift, but you can treat it as one as well. So he has the same ability here, which is important, but you're going to try and keep increasing his magic for that 1 action in his normal form. He can remove some status effects to 1 enemy of Mirage, which is important. Increases physical accuracy to caster, and then he has this bolting strike for 100x. It's magic damage, so you can imbue him to any element and do damage, and he uses physical killers as well. And he also does fire magic damage that decreases fire resistance for 130 turns for 4 turns to all enemies, which is nice. You can use this, as I say, if you have Louise. Overall, his skills here, he has 200 magic. He is a true double hand unit, again, has with 100% modifier cap. So you only need to give him another 100% to get the full chain modifier. LB damage increase here at 150% is good. He hates stones at 200%, demons at 150. He has nice magic status 500 increase here, and he has another 100% if you have his TMR or STMR equipped, which you can always argue. I'm not so sure how many people are going to use this, as his rod is fairly negative overall. You're probably going to look for a better rod than his. So this 100% equipment for magic really isn't worth it overall in my mind. If you want to use his TMR, that's, I guess, okay. But all in all, I'm not calling that exactly a very high-end unit thing overall. It will autocast a heal when you brave shift, but really, I just don't get it. It's just not a good TMR either. But here's the power here. So what you do, and it does take a very, very long time, if I remember correctly. I think the fastest you can do this is turn 9 for Dragonlord, and that's correct. If you can quickly increase it up to, so with you will need to do his limit burst, do it again. Just once there, then you'll need to spend 4 turns buffing up his magic, etc., etc. Then on the time back, you'll be able to do it. He dishes an insane amount of damage. It's a 32 hit. It's a little hard to get in there, but when you're talking 180 max, and then you have this 960% buff for magic, you will be able to do an awful lot of damage. As I say, the main problem with him is he is just a one-time big damage unit. He doesn't do a lot of damage if you want to have him do that insane overall damage there. So, very good unit for fire. You can work, especially with the Louise, and even like Laura Croft, chaining them together using this. Very high damage, but very, very greedy because of the fact that really all that damage is just done in one big boost, which can be very useful for Kawa Dark Visions. But all in all, a good unit, but a bit frustrating for how you've got to use it, because does take 8 to 9 turns in order, and not 8 to 9. It does take 9 turns for you to be able to unleash his full power. That is an eternity. All right, let's go with some of the true newer ones. First one we're going to do is Alena and Marquis de Lyon. This one is the Super Limit Burst unit. This one isn't as good in my mind as Zoma, but does still have a lot of uses. It really would have excited me a lot more if this wasn't a Super Limit Burst unit. But besides that, there is still a lot of good work with, especially if you have an Auron to kind of tag along with her. Her TMR is actually somewhat interesting. It gives 60% attack, 100% LB fill rate, and it's a materia that gives guts at 30% or higher. I really like guts. It allows you to do some unique skills or unique overall strategies for both Cow and Dark Visions. So having this on the materia slot as well is very, very good. Very, very much enjoy this. But to me, her fist is even more fantastic. 188 attack, increases LB damage, increases physical damage against humans by 50%, and normal attack hits 2 times. This is another way to do some very interesting overall things. The normal attack hits 2 times. There are ways. Unfortunately, Equipped Fist is limited to 1 person, so like even Kresnik would be a very interesting use for this in order to try and fit to the best ability for certain things, depending everything. But besides that, it will allow you to potentially do some stuff for Cow for other units. But for a Fist, I do really enjoy that it both has LB damage and a killer. So if we're ever fighting a human or a human something hybrid, these Fists are going to go insanely well, especially if you're lucky to have a Full Moon Cardin. He will absolutely enjoy these Fists. The Vision card here is going to be the same between both the Zoma and Alena. This is going to have starts at 50 attack and 50 magic and finishes at 100 for each. This is also a great hybrid card overall. For level 4, it gives you 25% limit burst damage. It's pretty good overall skill. Level 7 gives you 50% physical and magical damage against dragons. And the attack, defense, magic, spirit level 10 is only for the Dragon Quest units, especially Zoma and Alena. But it gives 300 of the attack, defense, magic, and spirit static. So obviously those are going to be the best Vision cards overall. But I do really like this increased physical and magic damage against dragons by 50%. These time-limited, unfortunately, Vision cards are really nice to help you stack those killers on top overall. The attack and magic isn't very high. It's only 100. Once again, though, if you're doing a hybrid, that will really add up for you overall. And you don't get any other percentages on top of it, so there are positives and negatives. But once again, if you're looking for limit bursts, and especially against damage against dragons, this is going to be your card of choice. Interestingly enough, Alena actually already has a pretty good wind and earth, which actually fits her kit really well for elemental resist. Sleep and petrify immune initially is great. The only two that you worry about then are obviously confused and paralyzed. Weapons are relatively limited. Another major claw user. And you'll start seeing that she'll fit fairly well with Cardin as well. She has some tag team abilities, so she can just basically chain with herself. Her main damage is this bolting strike skill, 240 to all there. The only problem that I have with it is it only gives her the 1. It doesn't do the 3x like Lauren Carton does, so she just doesn't hit nearly as hard. But she has a great skill of decreased wind resistance by 120% for 4 turns to 1 enemy, and also gives 72 there. She has a critical hit chance, which is a pretty powerful overall attack. This fits her very well with Dragon Quest. She is known as an all-or-nothing unit with a 10% chance to miss. Also fits her very well. So to me, it's a great flavor thing. You're not going to use it very often, in all honesty. But I do like the chance to miss there and giving you a little bit more damage than the 150x there overall. This is unique on multicast, but this allows her to do more wind physical damage to caster and increase her limit burst. She's a super limit burst unit. This is going to be her main overall skills. She has the ability to basically fill her limit bursts. 3 gives her 500 attack, just like all the other limited units. She has 200% for attack with 100% dual wielding, and her modifier cap will increase 200% from this. She is a dual wield unit. Fairly easy to build as long as you have enough claws to work with. But overall, pretty good, easy there. And for a super limit burst, having 150% and 200 attack with 100% dual wield makes her at least a little easier to equip. Demons 200% and beasts 50% killers. If you do have her TMR or STMR, it gives another 50% and normal attack hits 2 times. Just remember her STMR does that as well, and her TMR gives her a very nice kill guts effect. So equipping that is actually not all that bad, especially if you need to have guts for her. All in all, I do like it, and that turns the limit burst to 200%. So if you're equipping her STMR, it's already at 275, I believe. Let me just make sure because it's 75%. And for her humans, she adds another 50% killers on humans on top of that. So she really does like her STMR, but other units do as well. She can always do the tag team if you do that. But let's talk about her limit burst here. Her normal limit burst is fairly boring. It is a 7-hit tag team chain. Does 150x with 120% decrease in wind resistance. But her super limit burst is much more powerful. The wind resistance only goes up by 10%. The wind physical damage is fine at 250. It's nothing super, super high. But the ability to increase her modifier 100x for all other skills afterwards for her physical attacks other than limit burst is very, very powerful. Just to take a look back again on top of this, you are looking at this one here can turn into 250x, which she can cast 3 times. All of a sudden, she has 750x instantly in her kit. This one's 172 with tag team. And if you're doing this one right here, all of a sudden, that's a 340x bolting strike skill. The big problem I have with her, though, is she just doesn't have a very large amount of skills for bolting strike. You can see here that this increases by 10x here, and the decrease for wind resistance overall, and grants the tag team. Her big problem is she can't really chain. She is just a finisher like Oran, but the two of them work very, very well together, both being heavily wind based, and very, very much, unfortunately, limit burst based as well, which you can see here for 250x. And then after you do her limit burst, she can just then keep on pummeling out damage, and that's her strength. But in all honesty, I don't see a lot of room for her in a lot of teams. She is much more of a pure STMR unit than anything else. The last unit is Zoma. My man Zoma. I'm going to have a little bit of rose-colored glasses on this one. This is my favorite villain in all of Dragon Quest. So just to get that out of the way, his robe, the rainbow robe, is going to be 67 magic, 32 spirit with 12 defense, gives some ice and dark resist at 30%. But more importantly, it will give him 500 static magic, so he wants his own TMR. You're probably not going to want to use that on anyone else. Maybe if you get 2 of him having a second one for the ice dark at 30%, a decent enough magic might be okay. And at the start of the battle, it increases limit burst gauge by basically 1,000. Voila. His STMR, though, materia, increased magic 80%, LB damage 75%. For units like Ibarra, Zoma, and any other magic units that have a little hard time increasing the limit burst damage, this is a fantastic STMR. Not really much else to say. You always need limit burst damage on STMRs and magic overall. Same exact card as Alena. Another non-true Brave Shift. Does have 4 turns duration. Ice, 50% and 100% dark already. Very good for resistance, but nothing for status. Weapons and armors are fairly limited. Let's just go quickly with the normal here. Oddly, he could remove all status effects from all enemies. That is a flavor ability from him. He has one use of his Magnus, which is a ice style. You're used to this: increased magic 300, LP 200, etc. And it fills up his limit burst gauge. He could quad cast his abilities pretty much whenever he wants to. A little frustratingly, his ice magic damage that is truly magic is Bolting Strike. His ice magic damage that has physical is Chaos Wave Awakened. It really should have split apart. And better yet, he can reflect 2 spells for 3 turns to 1 ally. Quadcast this. This is kind of another way to use VV a little bit to do the reflect another way, but otherwise you're really not going to use this a great deal. And let's just keep going here. Magic here is 200%, LB damage 150, modifier cap 100, and this is another true double hand unit 200%. Hates dragons and fairies. This fairy killer is actually relatively nice. You're going to be using Zoma for fairy kills. They seem to be weak to ice. Also, he works very well with Celis, General Celis. And also, if you have his TMR or STMR equipped, and you are going to have his TMR equipped, it's going to increase his magic up to 400%, so you don't have to have any true dual wield equipped there for him. So he is pretty much always going to be at 400%. You can spend what usually you'll have for materia, equip that to increase a chain modifier by 100%. And right there, you've got him basically maxed out and just looking at his LB. His limit burst is pretty decent overall. I like to decrease ice resistance by 130% single hit. Does ice damage to 150x to all enemies. But you're basically going to be using him in his Brave Shift form to do the most damage. Interestingly enough, his Brave Shift form actually has a very powerful element resistance and status element resistance. So he is actually pretty easy to build to keep working very well with 100% ice and darkness and even 40% light at this point. And status elements, he's got 100% for Confused and Stone and 50% for everything else. So let's go with the Brave Shift here. The difference here is not much. He just has this ability to do magic damage 180x to all enemies and gives 40 modifier increase there as well. So this is kind of just a single hit there. You're not going to see any real difference here other than the 60% all resistance with 200% HP and 1,000 magic. Static magic, remember he gets 500 with his TMR, so static magic will go up to 1,500. You do have to increase this to level 5 to get that, but this is absolutely insane. So remember, that was intrinsic, and then if you do include that on top, 60% to everything. So he's already got 160% ice and dark with 100% light. Very, very interesting design. His HP goes up to 200%, but you don't really need to use it. His normal attack will decrease ice resistance by 120. But his big boom here is the limit burst, 280 if you can cast it 2 times first. And the third time will be 280. Very powerful ice damage there. The big thing that you're going to want to do is, if possible, and Kresnik might be able to get you there, but his 60 is a little expensive. If you get lucky, being able to cast him twice before his first limit burst comes out, you will do an awful lot of damage. And if you do remember, he does gain a 100% increase in overall damage for the limit burst with his regular one, but it's not that big. This ice resistance is pretty good for the 130. But if you just want to go on his normal form and do 120% for his attack, that will also work very, very well. He's a very good unit, but if you're looking for a absolute burst of a unit, Dragonlord's going to be the best of the four. Slime's actually pretty fun, and if you get a lot of slimes, it becomes a very interesting, like just arena team. It kind of looks all cute and cuddly, except the slimes can actually do a lot of damage with the triple cast ability if it's TMR. So all in all, this is a very interesting units. Dragonlord's probably the best out of the bunch for the pure burst capability, but it takes him 9 turns. Zoma's the most consistent, and Alena can do some surprising damage with, especially with Auron. But for most people, you're either going to be pulling on Nostalgia or for the STMRs. I'm going to leave this video running for a little bit with questions, but if you're not interested, thank you, YouTube. I hope you guys enjoy. Good luck if you're pulling, and I will see you later. Goodbye. All right, guys, if you've got any questions for Dragon Quest, go ahead, ask them now.